The jibs in these newer trucks compared to our older ones make this job much easier. They're quite versatile. So he's got both the bottom and top bolts loosened off on that transformer. Those are 3/4 inch machine bolts. You want to make sure that you keep that strap as low as possible. Here, he's got quite a bit of space, so as he extends that jib up, it's going to lift up an extra couple inches, but he's still got enough clearance from the primary. If we felt we were getting too close, we could put some hard cover up on that primary. Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to be covering the most requested video ever on the channel, and that is a transformer changeout. So what we've got here, we've got a 15 kVA transformer. This guy right here, we showed up, the fuse was open. There was some lightning in the area earlier, so I suspect probably a lightning strike. We attempted to refuse and close that guy in, and she blew back open. So we're about an hour and a half from the office. We've got our partner loading up a transformer. I've just got my little CSR truck. I brought a second guy out with me today. A lot of times, it's only affecting 2 customers. A lot of times I'll come check out the call on my own. I have 2 guys left back in the city, but kind of got attacked by a massive German Shepherd. Took a great big old chunk out of my calf muscle. It sucked. Can't show you guys pictures because I'd get demonetized. It was pretty nasty, but guys, be careful around dogs. I've always been comfortable around them. Dog was walking alongside me while I was talking to the owner. He latched on. It was nasty. Got a bunch of staples in my leg right now, but healing up good. While we're walking back to the truck, I want to give a huge shout out to Dragonwear for sending me this new ARC rated shirt. Definitely my favorite, most comfortable ARC rated gear I've ever worn. And I mentioned in my last video, for those of you who watched it, about my tills. All my tills in my truck leak. I don't know if it's around the seams. I've brought it back to the guys who built the box on it. They sealed everything up. Always get moisture in it. Absolutely wreck my tools. That's why in a lot of videos you've seen these old tools. Take a little look here. You can tell just by my socket set. Absolute mess. I've been battling with this for a long time. Even my crimpets, the boxes are all soaked. So I reached out to Milwaukee to see if perhaps they had a solution. I know they got a ton of packouts. So they sent a couple options down. It's still in the process. I kind of just rugged this up on the weekend, but I rearranged this till here, kind of flipped this shelf upside down here, and I managed to fit one of their packouts right inside my till. It's watertight, and finally I'm able to load up all my made in USA hand tools from Milwaukee. As I said, it's still a work in progress. I'm trying to figure out how I want to set up all the dividers and hopefully get some of my power tools in. I might even be able to get the second one on top, or maybe rearrange some of the other tills, but super pumped about that. No more rusty tools. We're going to jump back in the truck. My partner Dax is just setting up the tailboard, and our other partners should be here anytime, and we're going to capture that transformer changeout from start to finish. Alright guys, so we're up in the air here now. My partner Ryan is going to be doing the transformer changeout. But we do have 2 trucks here that could help him, but we're going to be showing in this video that it's a 2-man job. 1 man on the ground, 1 man up in the air. I'm going to be documenting the transformer changeout, following all of our procedures as a company. Just a few looks at the job site here. So we do have our traffic control in place. Ryan is just prepping a few things. He's got his hot sticks. He's just putting some leads on the transformer there now, putting those high lugs on, and it has some leads running down so we can crimp the secondary from the old transformer directly onto it, because this old transformer has mechanical connectors. They just slide up into the lugs and tighten down. Our new transformer has paddles that takes the high lug connectors or something similar, so that'll save them a few steps while up in the air. Currently that cutout fuse is blown. It is still tapped on. That lightning arrestor is still live. So that'll be one of his first steps. Actually, the very first step is he's going to be checking out the pole. We can see there's some peat moss in the crossarm. He's going to be looking things over. The crossarm's actually in pretty good shape considering from the ground it looked like it was a bit rotten. Also checking out those ties. We saw a video years ago where it's somewhat common for these ties to be installed incorrectly. So he's going to be taking a look at the ties, make sure that they're all secure, that the primary is not going to be shaking down off the pole once he's working. He's got lots of clearance, well, I shouldn't say lots of clearance. He's got enough clearance in order to safely remove that transformer with his jib. And we did decide, rather than replacing it with 15 kVA, we're going to replace it with a 25 kVA because I just heard from the grapevine that this house is soon going to be doing quite a bit of renovations, so it's quite possible that there's going to be some extra demand. Having that house as well as the house behind me, it's a bit much for a 15 kVA, so we're going to replace that with 25 kVA. One last shout out I want to do, if you look down inside this guy's bucket, he's got the big rack from Lineman Bucket Products. A great product. Definitely check out their TikTok. And I'm trying out a new harness, not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. This is something our company bought by Buckingham. Usually we get the black one. It's got a heck of a lot more padding and stuff on it. The guys were complaining they're a bit heavy, so this is a size small Buckingham harness that a lot more lightweight, fits a little tighter. This is one of the first times I'm wearing it. I've got to go through and really figure out the adjustments to it. Ryan's got one of them down there as well. He's just about all set. So we're just going to pause the video until he gets up in the air and we'll walk you guys through this whole process. Got my helmet light on too because not much daylight left at all. Just a couple more things while we're waiting for Ryan to get all geared up there. I'm going to mention on this transformer. See the primary bushing here has that gray cone over top. We call that a squirrel guard. Squirrels like to climb up the pole or use those telephone wires as kind of a highway system. They'll run up the pole, up onto the transformer, which is grounded through its case ground, up and over that bushing, and their back legs will be standing on the transformer lid while their top touches the 7200 volts on the bushing, and that'll cause the fuse to blow, and also that'll be the end of the squirrel. So we put that squirrel guard on there, as well as we use an insulated with very thick insulation wire going from the bushing to the cutout and then back to our bare copper as it goes up to the top clamp and the stirrup on the overhead primary. So we'll probably do this whole thing in one shot without speeding anything up, just to kind of show you guys real time how long a transformer changeout takes. I suspect it'll probably take them, probably be less than a half hour anyways. So this is Ryan here, guys, gearing up into position. Before setting up on our work site, we were across the street. I can't show the house across the street because there's a great big logo for a local business, but we had our tailboard across the street. That's just the AB stick he's going to use to close in the cutout once all the work's complete, so that he's a good 12 feet away in case it blows again. First thing he's doing here now is he's going to untap that lead to de-energize that lightning arrestor, as well as give him a lot more clearance while he works on the transformer. So the next step he's going to take before he gets in there is double checking all the ties up on the crossarm, condition of the crossarm, make sure there's no hazards. Now, whenever we're working on a transformer, if there is any generators hooked up causing backfeed, the voltage will backfeed through the secondary side and step up to primary voltage. So part of our procedure is always to install secondary grounds on the transformer whenever working on them. In a case where we're removing the transformer completely, there's not much point in installing secondary grounds, simply to take them back off. So as long as we remove the secondary from the transformer first, then we don't have to worry about any backfeed. So that is always the first step, and then the last step will be to install the secondary grounds once all the primary is installed. Another thing I'll mention, that's aluminum wire. Anytime you do have that style bushing, you want to make sure you use copper wires. The aluminum is just, over time, loosens up. He's going to save that scroll guard to install on the new transformer. You can see he's using the Milwaukee power tools to remove all the connections. It's very important you don't over torque those connections when reinstalling them, especially on that primary bushing. It's quite easy to snap that off. So he's already got the transformer pretty well all taken apart here. There's no H2 on this transformer. It's actually using the secondary bushing, the X2, as the H2 for the path for the primary winding. The new transformer will have an H2 connection. Did have a case crown, however, which he has already removed. Just looking down with the camera because of some logos here. Just going to cover up that logo. Give me one sec, guys. Alright. So every transformer has a wiring diagram on the side as well. You can see here 15 kVA, 120, 240 volts, 6 gallons of oil, 320 pounds. Ryan's also wearing his class 2 20 kV gloves, where he's got more than his 2'1" clearance, which is what we require. However, some of the tools he's using could breach that 2'1". So that's why he's continuing to wear his class 2 20 kV gloves throughout the work. The jibs in these newer trucks compared to our older ones make this job much easier. They're quite versatile. So he's got both the bottom and top bolts loosened off on that transformer. Those are 3/4 inch machine bolts. You want to make sure that you keep that strap as low as possible. Here, he's got quite a bit of space, so as he extends that jib up, it's going to lift up an extra couple inches, but he's still got enough clearance from the primary. If we felt we were getting too close, we could put some hard cover up on that primary. Just loosening that nut off a little bit more. And there she goes. You'll see when he backs away here on the bracket of the transformer, it's actually labeled on the diagram that they're called an anti-jumping device or something to that effect. It's just little fins on the underside of the transformer so that once it sits in the bolts, if there's a vehicle accident, the transformer's not going to simply jump up and off those bolts. You do have to kind of get quite a bit of upward tension, wiggle it around a little bit. So I'm going to head down to the ground here because one of our other guys has got it. He's going to tie that new transformer on. Something we will see on the new transformer is the lightning arresters now come mounted on the transformer itself, which is great because when you're tapping on that lead, you're not picking up that lightning arrestor. So the older style, let's take a look at the lightning arrestor again. when you're tapping that lead on and you're 6 feet away, if that lightning arrestor is bad, which is, it's not common, but if it's bad and it blows up, it's not fun to be anywhere near that. So the newer style transformers, the lightning arrestor is on the transformer, and it doesn't become energized until you actually close in that cutout. So let's just take a look at the pole here while we're waiting. As I did mention, there was triplex used for those transformer leads. It's definitely not the greatest for any mechanical connection to use aluminum. So he is going to use the high lugs and crimp those leads on. Those leads feed onto our mainline secondary, which carries on, feed that house and the one behind me. So the neutral bushing, the secondary neutral, which is that silver lead there, sometimes you'll have a single house off transformer and the triplex running, say from across the street, running right over here into the can. If that's the case, you do have to put a jumper from the can over to the mainline neutral, so that there's no difference in potential on the service line neutral, the neutral in the transformer, and the mainline neutral as well. Also a good idea to check your cutout and your tap clamp and connections and stuff, but that one's almost brand new, newer style polymer cutout. You won't have to change out any of that equipment. That copper lead right there is the case ground that bonds the case of the transformer to the neutral, as well as to our butt ground, which runs down the pole. Every fifth span or so is bonded to the telephone, so this span of telephone is not bonded. And you can see on the new transformer there, it does have a lightning arrestor mounted onto it. So one of the steps is he's going to be disconnecting the lightning arrestor that's currently on the pole right now. Very important to use a properly rated sling with no cuts or damage to it in any way, shape, or form. Here also we can see a little bit better look at the new Buckingham harness. It's actually one of the cheaper versions of their harness, and the guys seem to like it quite a bit. So these holes were pre-drilled obviously, but very important to make sure that when you are making new construction and hanging a transformer, that the bolts top and bottom are perfectly in line, or else you'll get quite a bit of grief when you're hanging it. The newer lightning arrestor, this might get loud. As long as that top bolt's tight when hanging a transformer, you can release it in order to better position yourself to remove that, or to tighten that bottom bolt. That top bolt will hold the weight of that, no problem. The bottom one's pretty well just to stabilize it. So you can see the new lightning arrestor, same style. It's got a bond strap on the bottom side of the lightning arrestor, right onto the H2, which is basically the ground side of that primary winding. It's got a new copper lead on the H2, which will be bonded to the neutral. He's just getting his jib out of the way there now. Next, he's just going to be tightening up that bottom bolt. It doesn't really matter what order we do the rest of this job, other than those secondary leads must be hooked up last. So he's just cutting that lightning arrestor clear there now. Absolutely no point in having two lightning arrestors on the pole. It just creates a hazard. And that's looks like it's crimped onto that lead, so he'll might have to cut that off. You'll notice that Ryan was just looking up at the primary. It's very important whenever you're working on a pole, especially when you're this close to the primary, that you constantly check your position on the pole, check how close you are to any live leads. Always be aware of your position on the pole. And once you have a tool out, guys, try to do everything you can within that work zone with that tool. You notice he didn't take out his wrench until it was time to remove that lightning arrestor lead. Rather than putting it away, he continued on to use that to remove the lightning arrestor. And from here, you'll probably notice that he's going to hook that primary lead onto that bushing next while he still has that wrench out. That's just another style of a squirrel guard that we saw right there. He's also using a hand tool to tighten the primary in this case, so he doesn't risk over tightening that connector on the primary bushing and breaking it. I do gotta say though, we are absolutely spoiled with these lithium battery Milwaukee tools compared to 20 years ago when I started and everything was either hydraulic or gas. Made our trade much easier. This newer style squirrel guard has some perforations in the side for that lightning arrestor lead to go through. And right now he's just putting a new fuse. The previous fuse was a 3 amp. Since we upgraded the transformer to 25 kVA, he'll be using a 6 amp fuse. Older style cutout door, so it's got a off-size nut on it, which doesn't have to be overly tight. And he's able to hang that cutout door by hand since that lead is removed. If that lead was tapped on, you would absolutely not hang that by hand. You would use your hot stick. So our next step here is he's going to bond his H2. The H2 is part of the primary winding in the transformer. He's going to bond that to the mainline neutral using an H-tap crimpet. And probably a Milwaukee crimper, I'm guessing. I'm not sure what he's got in this truck, but I suspect a Milwaukee linear crimper. Beautiful. And while he's already in this work position, he will attach the case ground, which is just a mechanical connection. And again, always use copper. Beautiful. So she's pretty well all good to go. He's going to start on the secondary leads, you actually just put the high lugs on and the lead should reach directly into that. It does require some dies. What do we got here? We've got our 5/8 dies, CSA 22 dies, which will fit that 1/0 aluminum. The neutrals can be a little bit tricky to fit into these guys where it has the steel core. Seems like it went in pretty slick. That's just because we got Ryan on the other end of it. Usually makes things work pretty slick. So at this point where he's hooking up the secondary lead, he can absolutely not go onto any of the primary connections on this transformer where there is potential for backfeed. If he did forget something and had to go back onto the primary, at this point he'd have to either remove these secondary leads or install secondary grounds, which we've seen in a few past videos. Basically jumper cables just short out from each of the hots to the neutral in the center. So unlike compressing a sleeve, you don't have to rotate the press with every crimp. It is going to start to banana a little bit, but not enough that it's going to bother anything. You'll also notice the old transformer, it was blown. Fuse blew, we came, refused, closed it, blew again. A lot of times you hear people say a transformer blew when they hear the big bang and see the flash in the sky. That's typically just the fuse. They're loud and very bright. You don't want to be looking at it when they blow. In fact, even once this process is complete, when Ryan closes in that cutout, he's not going to be staring directly at it when he closes that door in, because we never know if maybe, even though we did inspect the rest of the line, that there isn't or wasn't another problem. That can was pretty old, so I'm pretty confident it was a bad transformer. To tell for sure, we could have disconnected the secondary lines and tried it a third time, but at that point I don't really want to risk actually blowing up the transformer, blowing the top right off. We could have called electromechanics to come out and test the windings of the transformer, but we're so far out of town, it's much easier just to replace it rather than get into testing. It was an old unit, it was due for an upgrade anyways. So the job's pretty well complete. Secondary leads are back on, primary's back on. He's getting his hot sticks using the 6-foot grab ball. He can safely tap that on. There's no risk of that fuse blowing yet. However, when he closes the fuse, he is going to use a double stick to give himself that 12 feet of clearance. So when those cutouts blow, they're designed to blow all the debris downward. That's why I'm moving up and away from the structure. And that's why he's going to be 12 feet away from the structure. So we're just going to back off here a little bit more in case she blows. He's going to get, oh, that's as far as my bucket goes up. And he looks away. Everything is good. Nothing blew up. Always a good sign. From behind me, customers giving a thumbs up. And one last step he's going to be doing is a voltage check. I suspect we'll see something probably along the lines of 123, 124 volts from each hot. And then you always want to check across both hots to make sure you do have your 240 in case there was a manufacturer's defect in the windings of the transformer, which is extremely rare. So going from a hot to a neutral, and we've got 123.8 hot to hot, we've got 247.5, and our other hot, we've got 123.7. Perfect. Alright, so 23 minutes from start to finish, including going down to get the transformer, dismantling. Pretty good. 23 minutes to change out a transformer. Everyone say, good job, Ryan. Ryan says thanks. Thanks for stopping in. As always, guys, I'm going to park my boom and help these boys pack up the big truck. We got a long drive back into town. Thanks for stopping in. As always, don't forget to leave any comments or questions you have down in the comment section. Like and subscribe. I don't say that often because I hate asking for stuff, but it's a huge help. If you do want to support the channel, please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. Be safe, all guys. Big thanks to Ryan for agreeing to be filmed on how to change out a transformer. See y'all soon.